Hello and welcome. Every project manager knows that feeling, right? The deadline is creeping closer, but so is that big cloud of uncertainty. So, what do you do when things don't go according to plan? Today, we're going to dive into how you can take back control when your project schedule is on the line.
So let me just ask you straight up. That huge deadline is on the horizon, but you've got that nagging feeling you might not hit it. What's your move? It's a massive question, and honestly, your answer can make or break the entire project.
Okay, so before you can make any moves, you have to understand the threat. So our first step is all about gauging your schedule risk. Turning that vague, anxious feeling into something you can actually measure and work with.
All right, let's get into it. A fantastic tool for really understanding schedule risk is a probability chart, just like the one you're seeing here. Instead of just picking a single, let's be honest, often optimistic deadline, this chart gives you a real forecast. This isn't just about crunching numbers, it's about swapping that gut-wrenching anxiety for some solid, data-driven confidence. It's all about visualizing the odds. So how do you even read this thing? Well, check out the lighter bars. Each one shows you the chance of finishing on that one specific day. So you've got a 5% shot on day 4, a 10% shot on day 5, and so on. But now look at those darker, taller bars. That's the accumulated probability. It's your odds adding up day after day. As you can see, by day 7, you're looking at a 65% total chance that the task will be done.
And here is the real secret sauce, the thing this chart is screaming at you. You might hope to finish by day 7, right? But the data is telling you a much safer bet is 8 days. And why is that? Because at that point, the chance of failure, of not being done, just plummets to a mere 15%. See? This is how you start making decisions based on data instead of just crossing your fingers. And this really nails a key idea for schedule risk. When we talk about a potential loss here, we're not necessarily talking about money. The real currency we're losing is time. It's days on the calendar, and you just can't get those back. Okay, so you've sized up the risk, you know the odds. So, now what? Let's walk through your 4 main strategic plays for responding to that risk and wrestling back control of your calendar.
So, once you've spotted a risk and figured out how big of a deal it is, the last thing you want to do is panic. It's about having a playbook. And your playbook has 4 basic options. You can accept the risk, you can avoid it, you can reduce or mitigate it, or you can transfer it somewhere else. Let's break down what each of those really means.
Let's kick things off with the first 2 options. They really represent 2 completely different ways of thinking. Basically, you can choose to do nothing, or you can choose to just sidestep the problem entirely.
First up is risk acceptance. Now, let's be clear, this isn't about being lazy or burying your head in the sand. It is absolutely a strategic decision. It's the do-nothing option you pick when, say, the cost of dealing with a risk is way more than the damage it could cause. Or maybe your energy is just better spent fighting bigger fires.
On the complete other end of the spectrum, you've got risk avoidance. This is when you look at an activity and realize it's so risky, so likely to cause a delay, that the smartest play is to just not do it at all. You actually change your plan to cut that threat out completely. You gotta love this analogy because it's so simple and it just hits the nail on the head. If you're worried about sharks, then don't go into the water. Simple as that. If a certain approach is known to be buggy and could blow up your schedule, maybe you just stick with the tried and true method instead. You avoid the risk. But, okay, what about those risks you can't just ignore and you can't completely avoid? Well, for those, we need to get a little more proactive. So let's dive into our final set of options: reducing, mitigating, or transferring that risk. A lot of people get risk reduction and risk mitigation mixed up, but the difference is absolutely critical. Reduction is all about lowering the chance that something bad will happen in the first place. Think of it like preventing that first domino from even getting tipped over. Mitigation, on the other hand, kind of assumes the domino might fall anyway, so it focuses on lessening the impact when it does, like building a little wall to stop the whole chain reaction. Here is a perfect real-world example. Think about backing up your data regularly. That doesn't stop your hard drive from failing, right? The likelihood is still there. But if it fails, those backups make the impact so much smaller. You can restore your data and keep right on going. That is classic risk mitigation. And our final strategy is risk transfer. And yeah, it is pretty much what it sounds like. You make the risk someone else's problem. A super common example in project management is outsourcing a really tricky part of the project to another company for a fixed fee. Now, if it takes them way longer than they thought, well,
that risk to the schedule is on them, not you.
So there you have it. You now know how to evaluate your schedule risk with a tool like a probability chart, and you've got 4 solid strategies in your toolkit for how to respond. The next time that cloud of uncertainty starts looming over your project, the only real question left is, which path are you going to choose?